The biggest mistake NPP and say omu choose Dr. Bawumia over Kennedy Agyapong.
I am like a driver's mate. If you make me the president, I will be in the driver's seat.
Uni idea, uni hwe. Nti bede ne de ka na hye wonsa.
I am the best candidate for the presidency of this country.
Obi a okokro ba onkuta tru, ne ho ohu. Pa chen am roba. Dr. Bawumia twa ntro. Se mobile money omonye tax ho da. E na omo begiye.
We should not tax mobile money.
Enei Dr. Bawumia de nsama sa to dwa se oba mobile money tax ono be se twam.
Eno ne mo hye Dr. Bawumia twa ntro pa.
Bawumia trese Kennedy e wo ideas e chen ono Bawumia. Bawumia trese Kennedy enim se de ye kikire oman e chen ono Dr. Bawumia. Na wa trese Kennedy e very intelligent e chen ono Dr. Bawumia in terms of politics.
Still on Dr. Bawumia nensem ene bohye bebreba wa ba be hye Ghana fo no ne no achi no ensem bebre ene epiepie fira kire e ba quick one yenko na yenhwe na yentie we ye ba ensem a commander aboaboa no a ode ba no abusua wo yam ebe show na Dr. Bawumia ene ni Kennedy Agyapong ene ni kosi ani ena Dr. Bawumia ewe ne ye after say Doctor ene ni nsem ebe tutu dwa no Ghana fo bi mo se da bi ene na NPP amone ko no o my mistake e twa se omori Kennedy Agyapong eba sansam no ebewuram na afen mi bia ayefa ba quick one commander yenko na yenhwe na yentie we ye ba ene nsem a ewo ho no abusua ano edi.
As vice president, I am like a driver's mate. But by the grace of God, if you make me the president, I will be in the driver's seat with constitutionally mandated authority to pursue my vision and my priorities. So what do I want to do in terms of vision and priorities and policies if you give me the opportunity by the grace of God to become president of the Republic of Ghana? Ladies and gentlemen, in this regard, I have been engaged in a lot of consultation and doing a lot of thinking in the last few months about the lessons of the last 7 years, as well as my vision and priorities as I seek to become president of the Republic of Ghana. Clearly, the initial conditions that we inherited in 2017 are not the same as will be in 2025. Therefore, my priorities will be different. We have done many good things, and I will be seeking to build upon them. My vision, ladies and gentlemen, is to create a tent big enough to accommodate all our people, to tap into the resourcefulness and talents of our people, irrespective of our different ethnic, political, and religious backgrounds, to channel our energies into building the kind of country that assures food, self-sufficient, safe, prosperous, and a dignified future for all Ghanaians. To create sustainable jobs with meaningful pay for all and for Ghana to participate fully in the fourth industrial revolution using systems and data. To realize this vision, we must have a mindset of possibilities and not impossibilities. The challenges we must overcome as a country are too important to let our political differences derail us. There is a critical failure of mindset that manifests itself in the absence of core values, patriotism, and principles within our society. We need to invigorate the can-do spirit of the Ghanaian, to believe that we can do better than we have ever imagined if we put our minds to it. For example, our students from Mamfi Girls Senior High School and Prempeh College have won international robotic competitions against their peers in the US, Germany, and South Korea. We must apply the same mindset of beating the world in robotics, singathons, and cookathons to every sphere of economic activity. We must believe that it is possible. This must be inculcated in our children from home and in school. This is why we are going to introduce a growth mindset curriculum in our schools to help students build critical skills such as problem solving, risk taking, opportunity spotting, and design thinking. Ladies and gentlemen, in the area of macroeconomic stability, a major goal of my government would be to attain and sustain macroeconomic stability with low inflation, low interest rates, exchange rate stability, and low budget deficits. In terms of prudently managing our expenditures, to reduce the budget deficit and interest rates, my government will enhance fiscal discipline through an independent Fiscal Responsibility Council enshrined in the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2018, Act 982. The Fiscal Responsibility Act will also be amended to add a fiscal rule that requires that budgeted expenditure in any year does not exceed 105% of the previous year's tax revenue. This will prevent the experience of budgetary expenditures based on optimistic revenue forecasts, which many a time do not materialize. Ladies and gentlemen, furthermore, my government will reduce the fiscal burden on government by leveraging the private sector. Under the two-term administration of my boss, His Excellency Nana Addo Akufo-Addo's government, we have put in place many social safety nets like free SHS, free TVET, and so on. With all these social safety nets in place, my government will now focus on jobs and wealth creation by the private sector for all Ghanaians. My administration thank you, will incentivize the private sector to complement government in the provision of many infrastructure and other services to reduce government expenditure and improve maintenance. The private sector will be encouraged to build roads, schools, hostels, and houses for government to rent or lease to hold. The demand for roads construction is massive, and this has historically placed a huge burden on the budget. I believe that the private sector should finance the construction and maintenance of roads through PPP concession arrangements. Also, the government will move towards leasing rather than purchasing vehicles, printing equipment, and so on. The private sector will have the responsibility for maintaining the vehicles and the equipment. With this approach, government can save very significant outright cash-out expenditure annually from various items across different ministries, departments, and agencies. This policy will energize the private sector and create many jobs. Enhancing the role of the private sector, along with fiscal and administrative decentralization, improving our systems and the way our institutions function, will lead to greater efficiency, cutting waste, and ensuring value for money in procurement. The move towards private sector provision of many public services would create the fiscal space of at least 3% of GDP annually. This represents a major paradigm shift. Additionally, an efficient system of governance will require even fewer ministers. I would have, therefore, no more than 50 ministers and deputy ministers. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about our tax system. To increase government tax revenue, we have to reform and refocus the Ghana Revenue Authority towards broadening the tax base. Unfortunately, the pressure that is placed on GRA staff to collect revenues makes them focus on existing taxpayers. Sometimes they even have to go and sit in people's shops to monitor sales, a process known as invigilation. Many infrastructure and other services to reduce government expenditure and improve maintenance. The private sector will be encouraged to build roads, schools, hostels, and houses for government to rent or lease to hold. The demand for roads construction is massive, and this has historically placed a huge burden on the budget. I believe that the private sector should finance the construction and maintenance of roads through PPP concession arrangements. Also, the government will move towards leasing rather than purchasing vehicles, printing equipment, and so on. The private sector will have the responsibility for maintaining the vehicles and the equipment. With this approach, government can save very significant outright cash out expenditure annually from various items across different ministries, departments, and agencies. This policy will energize the private sector and create many jobs, enhancing the role of the private sector, along with fiscal and administrative decentralization, improving our systems and the way our institutions function will lead to greater efficiency, cutting waste, and ensuring value for money in procurement. The move towards private sector provision of many public services would create the fiscal space of at least 3% of GDP annually. This represents a major paradigm shift. Additionally, an efficient system of governance will require even fewer ministers. I would have, therefore, no more than 50 ministers and deputy ministers. Ladies and gentlemen, to move towards a cashless economy, however, we have to encourage the population to use electronic channels of payment. To accomplish this, under my administration, there will be no taxes on digital payments. The e-levy will therefore be abolished. When we assumed office in 2017, we were confronted with an economy with declining economic growth, along with several challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, when we assumed office in 2017, we were confronted with an economy with declining economic growth, along with several problems and challenges. Time was provided by the former president and my main opponent for the 2024 presidential election, who announced to the nation that the meat was finished and the economy was left with bones. Notwithstanding the difficult economy we inherited, we had to get on with it and start to fix the problems. We started with a clear, decisive, and deliberate program to, among other things, stabilize the economy, fix DUMSO, fix the National Health Insurance Scheme, fix the roads, clear the arrears, make education free and accessible, significantly enhance social protection for the vulnerable in society, industrialize our economy, tackle youth unemployment, and empower farmers. Exchange rate depreciation and the trade balance were all moving in the right direction. However, between 2020 and 2022, we experienced severe challenges triggered by the pandemic, which brought the world and our country to a thundering halt. We may be tired of hearing it, but there is no avoiding the fact that the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war resulted in the greatest economic depression in the world since the 1930s, with most countries recording negative GDP growth. The severity, especially of the pandemic, was captured in the words of the IMF managing director, then asked, and I quote, "This crisis like no other. This is a crisis like no other. Pandemics don't respect borders. Neither do the economic shocks they cause. The outlook is dire. We expect global economic activity to decline to a scale we have not seen since the Great Depression." End quote. Supply chain disruptions and rising price of oil resulted in major increases in the prices of fuel, freight, and food across the globe. I believe it is worth pointing out that in addition to the external factors, there were two major items of expenditure that are critical to understanding the difficult economic situation we have faced. And these are the banking sector cleanup and the energy sector excess capacity payments that we inherited. Expenditure on these three items, including the COVID-19 expenditure, cumulatively amounted to 50.1 billion Ghana cedis, and this was financed from borrowing. Ladies and gentlemen, the fiscal deficit, which was reduced from 8.4% to 4.1% in 2019, increased to 10.8% in 2020 as a result of revenue declines in the midst of increased expenditures during COVID. In addition, our debt became unsustainable. Along with many emerging economies, Ghana lost access to international capital market financing. This resulted in a balance of payments crisis as Ghana had to continue to honor its debt obligations, energy payments, and the import bill. We faced a serious global and domestic economic crisis. There were many who predicted that we were going to end up like the situation in Sri Lanka, with fuel shortages, food shortages, inability to pay workers, doomsday, anarchy, and chaos. Indeed, Ghanaians were hit hard by rising food prices, increased exchange rate depreciation, and rising fuel prices and rising transportation fares. Bond holders also saw a sharp decline in their net worth following the painful debt restructuring program. We faced very challenging times, but with calm leadership and the support and understanding of the good people of Ghana, we have weathered the storm. The government had to seek IMF support to stabilize our economy and restore fiscal and debt sustainability over 3 years. I must at this stage salute and give particular recognition to the Bank of Ghana, which has come under unfair criticism for taking the necessary measures which help pull the economy back from the brink. The Bank of Ghana provided needed financing to the government at that critical moment. What the Bank of Ghana did was very responsible in putting the interest of the good citizens of Ghana first. I am the best candidate for the presidency of this country.
Okay, Commander.
Yeah, the writer.
Boko there.
The writer Boko on our way.
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
Yeah.
Na minimisha Abu and Semni Nano are they ba?
Yeah, the writer I have one seminar.
Okay. Maminya Muma Prequin.
Well, the writer made us say, German mammy.
Okay.
Now, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia seminar me pesi you na ye hwe nsema o kaye no ye yi na papo ko edi kaka se ye be yi no kakra kakra
yeah
but ansa na me sha ase akasa and writer
ada assembly asia na
assembly asi and unim say aha ye nya propaganda nti makasa o de policy ne won semba the writer ye be hwe de wo ka no ene de waye atwam dada ene de opese wo ye nti Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia writer wa kan sem bebre but ansa na me start no me pesa we bo video bi mame no video bi how there mame time kakra na yenkohwe mra
Commander na die video nkwana ye be ya djuma yenya mo sa video
the right am sra wo there bossa video ni mame obo mame a e be mame kwan matima kamasem na obi atimasem na se yie aha ntu de bo mame
enye opanka me nko break mo sa video
the right how there sra obo mame
quick one yenko Commander say ye mo this video e ma no ye ba obenya ho a kire nsemu quick one ye hwe we mra.
Then to my question, which is okay, say over 200 million transactions. Are we taxing mobile money because we have mobile money at Tuska?
Yeah.
No government revenue bill.
No, the point is that you are not taxing mobile money, and it is for me my view and that we should not tax mobile money because mobile money transactions, a lot of the people who are using these transactions are very poor people. You know, someone will get sent 5 CDs on mobile money. Why would you want to tax?
Okay, Commander, that's a video with a video atwamu.
Yes, right, a video atwam. 2020. Na the time say bo video mame no. Where your time Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia or call despite media.
Yeah.
Now omo bisa ne say mobile money omo be je tax ho ana. O si mobile money omo nje tax ho da because hiafo na use. Anche na 11 bae 11 ti na omo ne saradwo asafo entam ye basa etwen na se chenchena omra me ba approve 11 enam 11 so na minority in parliament omo change omo mpanifo no omo sesa leadership because omo hu ne se mpanifo ne disappointed Ghana fo na ni se omo penema 11 ye gitum nti Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia o deny ye say 11 omo mfa mobile money tax e ma da
kan se o twa tro
right mama kan sa wanya no kwafo Dr. Mahmood Bawumia twa ntro se mobile money omonye tax ho da e na omobegiye enei Dr. Mahmood Bawumia de nsema sa to dwa se oba mobile money tax ono be se atwam o ka se emma ode aba o se oba obetwam
me ene no mo she Dr. Mahmood Bawumia twa ntro pa me na minim
sa
se na manfo keka
no okay
what you say
Matias
afi ne me hubi
se o twa ntro
pa o
the right na me pa dance obi wo ho a se ye kan sem a odwene se otan pani bi ye ntan obi minti na me pepani na nkasa num asem e dia ya dance die ame hu se me ka bibi wa se pani ni twa ntro a se da bia obi a wonyi nyina onte ase no onye akyinye cause we pani na num asem a waka
na commander we kra no bo hye bebrebe odi aba betu dwai ni policies as endorse no do ena no kra no se sie na ye kasa yi no IMF ena etoto ye ne mama ye nti obede na sa policy ana ba obeyi tiefi ho
the writer one now ye head of the economic team ena niema nkoye nti mode asan akọ IMF and before that hokra wo say twa ntro kire say wo si obi a wabon ena de Ghana be kọ IMF ena wo buy na wo de kọ IMF meaning say what prove ye say wabon because okay say obi a wabon na de Ghana be kọ IMF Ghana nya control say kọ IMF nti oba ya wo de kọ na chese Mahmood Bawumia wabon nti na wo de kọ IMF right Dr. Mahmood Bawumia say obi a wabon ena de Ghana hye nsa wo de be kọ IMF nti aban bia odi Ghana kwa IMF bia Mahmood Bawumia say wabon nti nei head of the economic team ya Bawumia nti wabon ono ane kan the writer mama sheme nsemase Dr. Mahmood Bawumia na ye twan no say odi the policies ebeba because amanfo bebre no mo ka say oni message na eya adroso oni policy na adroso nti na ye hwa ne say odi the policies ne beto form na obi aye din e wo ho nti nyame adom odi the policies na gu form but the first thing I me person make ho asam ye the writer wakasa bebre about taxes wakato ho asem pa ane nyina ye nim say amanfo tai complain say Ghana form pay tax tua but no kra ne nyame anim nie so per one of the countries here ya the taxes achechire omko Ghana ka ho ni nyina ne say we are in a country system ne nye economy ni mo odene bibia nkoye but in the last 7 years new taxes ya government ne dia ba nkoye about 13 to 15 new taxes aba
na ena no nsembe boboso mame
nti right nsema na me discuss no ye ba be ka ho asem no but the first one taxes ne ho asem ne ye be ka na we ye no si nchen a o say economy no it is recovering a chese economy ni bibi say afa na ehihye ye ye be ko ho kakra right na ye ko ministerial appointment or say on you more than 50 ministers and deputy ministers nti ho so ye be ko ho kakra na afa ye wia ya ba hwe import duties no nia o say obeyi afri ho kra obe abolish e bi kra na e bi nso so wakate right and finally yakwa kowuram e wo private infrastructure or say private companies no o mo na be build your roads ene your buildings nyina developments ni nyina right anti ene nsema ye be hwe no
dey na edikan
but am fa taxes ni nkan
pe hot one pa edikan ho na eni abre
the right the ntia me the taxes no edikan no me combine no ene economy na e recover no because ni nyina esikasem right according to Dr. Mahmood Bawumia ahokire wo man nim inteni kwan se taxes edroso bebre sa o se tete taxes ne so se de be amafo komu e be han omo and taxes na ye tete so no so no ye be find a proper way enko ba se tax collector bi e be kwa tena obi shop na o twan ne se obi mbeto ade a me twan obi to ade na magiska ne de tax na me ko e ba sa se ye forso nkofo ye yire omo na age omo sika kro no bo ye nye ne sa na mum according to him e be a digitalized way ye be for so agege taxes no na taxes le be bebre free ho na ho na manfo bisa questions say enye same Dr. Mahmood Bawumia na be kan sam bi in the previous time say taxes e ju Ghana no e doso na manfo ntimi ntua nti omo ba omba tete so e na omo ba ye omo antete so omo di bi be ka homum e na nei o kire say tax on electricity obeyi afri ho the writer betting tax obeyi afri ho e-levy obeyi afri any other taxes nti ho no ojitum say Dr. Mahmood Bawumia betuma aya enye ye because odinka shebo say omo beyi afri ho as vice president o shebo e na oba be vice president wa nya afri ho no omo di bi mom be ka ho and now so a president the writer obeyi afri ho Ebede na mema jedi say time a wo pe abedi akira ye no wo say de oni we no boss mo ba mo be ye fro mo ba mo di bi be ka ho mom nti bede na ma jedi say ne wo say wo ba wo be ye fro akira say wo ba wo be say ba increase no na me link that with the economy na e recover na the writer Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia be inherit economy a the nti make so na be inherit on the head of the economic team nti ono ho asem so na ye ka
na so we mate too
right ono na akirem so we mate but top driver akonya no so atena mate a unim ka ho hwe kai say ye koi bibi to chima untimi signal driver say oh boss ade bi say you untimi nya hwe mfa car ne ho wo say ye mfa driver seat ni ma na driver obede na watimi uni idea bia car ni bibi kitu bi na driver ni no pese wo bo anu ma ye bibi a uni idea uni hwe nti bede ne de car na hye wonsa the right what ma asem na say mate ni a wonim car ho idea kra onim ho hwe e de an say obi besi wa mani penalty we from the asado ni ma no sa mate no e de ne just tie man say on drive obeto atwene nti Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia the right according to him economy no e recover nti e kire economy no e hwe from a picky injury afena ne ho to no COVID-19 the right order COVID-19 and a Russia Ukraine war now me pese yesterday clear say during COVID-19 era the writer Ghana enya sika $1 billion from IMF support IMF demand $1 billion in fact $100 million from World Bank and idea ba kwa very key and say COVID-19 era but a creative fund bia na omo anyame adum omo asabi omo botom ye omo so ye adoye de ama Ghana obi ayi sika mpanifo bi Ghana ha omo ye businessmen a omo yi sika including Osei Kwame Despite Togwa Fede Ibrahim Mama Kes Benmo right omo yi sika kese de support ye ebesi ne the writer Minister of Health and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia ni aban ni nyina antimi anka nkyere Ghana for say sika na amanfo de mai no na eye 2 Ghana cedis Ghana for kan ya say omo nke sika dodo ayenya the writer besi no bi anka nkyere ye nti se wo wie na obeka kyere say COVID na makaba ma ho kyere ba writer ebede na majedi mpanifo na omutwetwa sika no ometwe sika de boa ba ye hu sika dodo omutwa ye ene akadodo aye bo COVID ho na say still e kabi wo baabi na ho kyere bi wo baabi a ebi on besa ye extra on be yi bi aka ho
bi COVID ne ba ye ma ne ma ye export ene de import no ni nyina na ba form
the right anya no na me hwa ansa de me hwa ne say COVID aba oman ni nyina se ho ye sika sem na meka COVID aba ho akyere IMF am $1 billion World Bank am $100 million and a Ghana for bi efiri omu pem acha ye sika ye nya a lot of support now sika na man for the channel mu create account say wa person obabi fa sika ne to ho and a Ghana for person say sika san and a amanfo e donate ye mun kan dodo an kire ye ko sika na nya nipa ba ko botom sika nti ye hwe sika dodo ye nya ye na ne de ka IMF ne ada institution support no ho a ne ye hwe sika mu nya ye nyina ye say na ka sensu na COVID ne de bre wo man no nti aho kire beba ye so nti ye mpa bi nka ho musemo nka sika ne nkyere ye ena mo beka kire say ya crack COVID-19 vaccines aba na vaccine na e ba ye no omede ba ko ma ye the writer em say $20 vaccine ba ko bia me hwa ye ho na Ukraine journalist bi beka kire ye say COVID vaccine na Ghana for toy no ba ko ye $10 nti hwan na e bokro no ubu hwan nti se owie a no be ka che se COVID ba ya boka bebremi hwa vaccine ba ko ye $10 but mo de my $20 and mo be ka che se there is an Arab a friend say agent ono na di enu ye intermediate ma ye toye a kire ye be prove say na agent bi anim but mo kire say agent no agi $2 million into with this we are like economy no COVID and side right how COVID nimpo benefit Ghana more than a car boy and now we are no sin China right okay say COVID na manfo ntimi import ne ma na bibia enkoso amadwadie aye stack bibia enkoso no right I accepted but no kra woman say amanfo import ne ma ba no kra ye gi ska ye gi taxes but na emma bim but as at that time ye nyina ye nim say na ya close schools okay ya COVID by you go to Tana school for nye time bia no mko school you close some of the institutions are boka ho no ebi mu e down ema activities bebre call from international yen suspend na no so akofom and now we are in China or say economy no afei na air recover because of sad no and or the Russia Ukraine war back na Russia Ukraine war me person me bisa say the only thing I Ghana ye fa free Ukraine pa na e wheat na wheat no udue bi Ghana e ye northern part of Ghana ye due ye nti COVID-19 ba ya na wheat why den Russia Ukraine war ba ya na wheat why den no the writer na your opportunity say wheat udua any 1 year e na aba nti ne opportunity say northern region and in northern part of Ghana masas ni nyina udua wheat ye ade na ye nnua bi say our plans and policies ade na ye nnua bi eno na nchen ye nyina nim say Argentina and Colombia mo produce wheat and this Ukraine ye ntimi nkofa wheat straight away be kwa Argentina ne akwa wheat now we be BS in China. According to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Russia-Ukraine war now can writer and change it be an impact because Norway, Sweden, the writer Romania, even in Tokwani Sea and probably called Romania and Poland. But Poland is one of the best countries to see in terms of economy. In Tishasa Obi and Tokwasi, a one and Nipani Janeko, Kahwana, Hochereni Bibiabeko. But Omo economy is one of the best, a very stable. But Shagana dear. Omukuita one of the best GDP. Oh, we are saying Poland. But Shagana, we are complaining say Russia Ukraine. Shebebi a war. Na shebebi a Russia Ukraine war. We are in West Africa or Momo Eastern Europe. Right, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia can draw on that aspect.
Na say economy grano say recover. Enyo no IMF.
Right, no cry woman say IMF for my sika $3 billion.
Okay.
Now, $3 billion no the mine as a result of a kaya the INTMintria. And they said they mismanage a sikasem. Now, Bekaya. IMF didn't come so Ghana in the previous government. You quite say, Don't catch us so afraid yet. You restructure your wage in a year on bet major economy na maye. Say, after ya and shaso, Jinach and then you must not quite so. And I could be almost there be a near my say. Monsa and Farmer, Modem Waba, the Virginia sign ye, a Chester must say near ma. In the next 3 years, IMF for each year, they will give us $1 billion. Now, only a shisha near my ometre, Sika spending on various sectors. Into a tresse, say BB El Koya, and yet Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia determine in your no control near IMF nature say Ghana no mundi 1 Ghana city or Tramuni 2 cities. Into an hour question, nay, and Yesika 2 cities at Toha, and yet Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and the Mayanya 2 cities. No, IMF for and Amia 2 cities not Toho, and IMF for Bawumia and Yajmo. Now, yesterday, Claire said, economy now, Apiki Injira, Afena IMF for Aman Air Recovano. Na Ghana, your total debt, the writer. Now you're 122 billion Ghana cedis. Okay. Now your total debt around 576.5 billion Ghana cedis. In 7 years. So you cut me free 122 billion Ghana cedis. 122.5. You could do 576.5 billion. Now just say the writer. A casusro na betoya so judgment debt eka ho. Bosiabo eka ho. Inti so check it and when mismanagement na just a Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia hold responsible ye was me myself kai de no e ho interest in 7 years every 122 could do 576 enya possible inti economy ho no Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia should accept defeat say wasai niema e ho enana me person gitum on kan okrenche Ghana for say mpanifo ne anuafo said me see e ka say mehye niema no yantumi anya ne sa momfa nkyeye na mo my opportunity bim na yen san try the betumi ayenhwe yen try other alternatives but they adwene say ye be ye no anya ye nti aha na be ka me Kennedy asem say obi a wasua economy enim say the more na we import niema na we export niema less no e be ma osika ni mu aye ha nti ye import niema less na ye produce niema more ha na export e na be ma sika ni mu adu Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia o kan nsem nyina wantu an kyerɛkyerɛ niema be se kwan be fa so e be ma ye seed no e ho aye dene eno an say the depreciation of the seed no ya ye ho adwuma but wantu an ka bibia amfa ho say na ye to make sure say seed ni be stable wantu an kyerɛ solution bia the right the next thing say according to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in fact, obey you not more than 50 ministers and deputy ministers. Now, you say now about 80 ministerial appointments. na about 80 ministerial appointments ena na na dankwa Akuffo do ebe pejam e record 90 e call 100 110 e kodru 120 nti na manfo bebre ka say e dross dodo yente so because former president Akuffo time ebe nyina no na ye was 60s 70s na atamos apejam ena mama be pejam ena Akuffo do so be pejam akodru bi akodru no but say wo check ya no kra ne nyame anim nie ministers ni bi ho amfa so ni so ba ko say
so bo ache ho say
works and housing on the writer to me so works and housing ministry on the writer ehun hia ye betima chichem e de gu other ministries ne so because say ye pese esi dan a ana ye pese ye kwan a road minister ho enti ehun hia say e be call works and housing the writer ye pese ye see hospitals a ye mfa ministry of health ye san kofa works and housing
e pese esi schools a
the writer ehun hia nti sa house nsem kra no to me anka yemfa nkɔhye gender ministry ho omo hwɛ ema nkwada omo hwɛ nipa asetena mu no ɛhɔ na wɔsɛ de ɛdan sem kɔ because ɛdan asem yɛ nipa nam asem nti yemfa nkɔhye ho ɛho hia sɛ be create sa ministerial position no zongo minister na ɛbai inner plan and zongo community no sɛbi mo mfa nkyɛm sɛ minsu sa wedui na yɛ nsemfo ministry ɛna yɛ create yɛ zongo is within our communities babia nkronkron zongo and na wuram zongo ewo krom okwa aboabo alaba ni nyina hye kumasem it falls under KMA nti Ashanti regional minister so kumase hobi den e honom ne de mo se yen create zongo fo no kwa minister nko zongo fo na ade no Ghanaians okwa Medina ne ade a zongo communities no any greater Accra na omon follow under Accra regional minister e dey nti na omon kwa nya omde ade e wo different planet ana
ena o creative kra no yen share dem hu development bia wo
development ben ena the right no kra nya mianim ni a lot of positions how do you know why it doesn't make sense
se Bawumia so obete so
omokofa senior minister baye Dr. Bawumia ntimi a oppose sa idea we say nana senior minister de enya bibia because wo president no wo na ye senior minister because wo na ye head of state nti ministers nyina have to report to you
se opebe bi do bia
because na osafoma afie ni pe wo so no so didi bi osafoma for former president Akuffo asem wi o da bia meka na mesra say obi a okokro no ba o nkuta tru ne ho ohu pa chen am roba eye ya osafoma afo ade are not for sale mo hu bia no beton the writer so no na boa me ton
se Bawumia ba obete so
writer Dr. Bawumia say oba obeto so na masem ne say in your time as vice president yeah what kire say a lot of measures wona we in charge a lot of policies wona ideas now ideas na adwuma and South Zongo promises bebrebe no kraye wona wode baaye na wanam so amoma create all these ministerial positions na no be catch so obeti so dey about less than 50 the writer but then am ajatum we are vice president we are in charge what tell me say man penny number of free hand to operate into ideas adwuma wa ban ni man kasa wona ideas does wo mo no it want man hu say also when man penny ni kasa monte so because ideas na adwuma mti wo ka idea ni be adwuma Dr. Bawumia ntimi ama o man te ministerial positions ne so and akwakodu 100 plus and ne all can less than 50 and me hu ni say ensama Ghana for bebre e ka say ye ministers ni do aso ye ntese no yeah who say politicians be more kase on better so no eno hunti na okam right big countries like US China right Japan North Korea omo nyina ministers yeah de do so chom even China less than 35 ministers she development at China omo how are China developing Japan less than 40 ministers nti den ena yehia
se Bawumia so ba obete so ana problem ne she
Right onye Dr. Bawumia wo ho ena numbers na ekosoro otimu bi ena omu nyina discuss say yen create minister of friend say zongo ina community planning ena o ma create ena ekosoro otimu bi no wajatum say yen create nti den na kire say adanse de be na wo ho say wo ba wo bete so wo mu bi ena mo apagya de no kan na mo fa nyina bebi egina but mo apagya de na kire say wo ba wo bete so enkoye nti Dr. Bawumia ansem no the right ho so me gituma enye yie right we no sin chan say o ka kire yem po say ebia aban no ni access woma he be hu ni mobo but wa kire say o direct access yeah the policies bebre na ye adwuma agenda 111 de ka hu na ye ono ne nsan no te kire say ne nsan no so wa ha right according to him o see in fact ade ba kwa e frɛ no import duties
hona asem no
obe make a lot of changes obe abolish ebi
sanitary pad
yes na
eno de o say onyin free ho
na the writer say sanitary pad asem no me pese me bisa asem bi ote ye say minority in parliament e dey asem e ko parliament say manya boni bia so mo betua moja ho tax because say utua o obi tua moja ho tax na e kire say o nom nipa ne moja
because na no kwantina ma o man ye bri
right e nature oba ne nya bone but moja no e nyame na ahye ne sai na wo say on tua moja ne ho to say nyame ma moja etu no on tua sa moja ne ho to na sa tax we right me be say why na the tax we buy
e na nado
why na vice president
but your Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia
nti aden na obeka tell say onu mom ne be ye free ho tax we na eni Ghana ha e mo na mo introduce kire ye nti so obi be sesa na anya wo na obesesa no ma different person ya onya opportunity medi man panida and a different political parties e meka so mo ba o be change no obi ti say odikemo ma kirabo mu bi emfamra lanko yo chamatemo nka so o mo ne beye but when I vice president what I say vice president and a moment this tax we buy and I would tell him say you will abolish it until when who say na nye papa right everything about solar will be important a be tax free na me person because I said then the sequence say tax free we are no sin chen what tell him say electronic vehicles cars say use light right say what the bar a be 50% cut off na hana asem no wo we have problem with electricity na ye nkuro nkitikiti bebre ho a onam kwan so a light no unya bi for example the right why adwin say ufri baby to say Ashanti region ebe ko upper west region onam kwan so kwa obeduru baby the right obenante be say 1 hour na onto kuro bia na imagine say what charge electric car e wo Ghana ha from Ashanti region or call upper west region now akwaduru baby you need to recharge na at the end baby we drew no kro ni ho about recharge then I'll be ask yourself ya wa ha me example bi a kiro yankasa ye football club akokotoko ekoto electronic bus na o mo charge bus na entimi last 2 hours e o say ahode san akofo no mo san charge bi enti de na akwa nyina ne say so o mo charge a charging no so e check it take a lot of time and sana charge awie nse kotoko charge bus no from Kumasi no mo so mo de ko ba bia e betima akobechem e betima akoboase but it cannot take them to Doma nti o mo ko Doma I just o mo ko gina bechem for so many hours nti de be ya ne say just o mo jai sa bus no mo pay new bus nti are you telling us say sa na e be ko na the writer na no kra nya mianim Europe mpo a electricity very common no bia no a obenya charge easy no right how many cars percentage of cars are use light electronic cars and fuel cars no endorse as electronic cars Europe fuel cars endorse as electronic cars US and when you say viewers ni bebre e be my clear idea of that say fuel cars and electronic cars in the hin endorse up to date uko Asia Saudi Arabia ni ade they still use fuel cars into ema fuel any oil ne boy in the world but so can same way ya enim say e petimi si Ghana na akosombo awe nti abasa say nyina ya use electronic cars ya how possible na eye na the right was sunny mam create new dam to say ka akosombo no obeye new one kase a eno so be supply to say the akosombo supply ni say be ya yenya electricity problem bia bi put two measures in place and dinka put two measures in place
ansana electric cars ne be ba no
yes
o my light ni nyina so
247 o my ye kwan okay say o my ye kwan e my ye light na cars ne de be den already cars ne o ha no kra ne ye bre fuel cars ne ye bre into the electronic cars ba electronic cars I'm told say e ho ahomete kakra a very different from forecast na ahwa ahomete kakra nti say onye san hyehye na o ma ye kwan o ma ye light nye stable light na nkasa ensoye always me oppose the use of electricity ever mattress say the your mattress ni si consuming light no emwaye Into south side way sa be ka hwade brighter light no afi kra de ye ho be kire more into won change that idea on for electronic cars ne ento nchen ansa se me feel say me use electronic car me ameto se me mpena me pefuo car me ameto enya by force right eno ho no so kirem say enwisie tax no obeyi afiri ho sa tax yi kra afi na momode ba wo a mo de ko parliament ya ya to ne di enwisie tax ya obi e ka bi no right and say see catch them and say onya one withdraw because o policies we na we dey be payment na deal policies we na mo di break 8 nti ade na wo say mo di be break 8 no afa na mo say ye ho adwuma e dey oppose dey wo di be break 8 no
commander 1
right how you say dia emfa na wa kire mu say
o say
na me adom no be president in 2025 foko majority of infrastructure developments they say roads to set buildings. You better done it in private sectors. Not private sectors no mum. Aya kwan esisi adan na aban no ayusu na ya high. Na ya train kakran. Na the writer. So what countries be to say Germany, China, Japan. No kran say private companies aya kwan. Na mum measures da ho. Say ida say kwan no mo ye no. Omo de toll booth esi so. Na tobutu no omo de agege sika no to make sure so ombete kwan ne ka na ne nyina nim se Ghana ha na tobutu esisi akwan so ana with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia idea say tobutu no ye pese ye sesa no ema ne electronic tobutu ne ma obi nkwatra ho nyoma mtra ho gye no omo bi sika no bi go mbutumti ye pese sesa na electronic nti ayi tobutu afri kwan so the writer omo wo ho gye aban nya sika kakra frim o se da bi because sika ne kakra ayira nti no ene mayi mu afri kwan no so kwan ne na ho saa sika ba ne mfa maintain kwan no it's the same person oba catch him say the little revenue generated from roads no wo ma asai emabiem ye nya roads no emfa ma private sectors now ask yourself say in Africa how many times when we say private companies are building roads. They don't do that much in Africa because omunim say the high system ni city no
we are buying tia
oh yeah aban on tia o do even omom do musika abo aban busa the government is not paying na how much more so what project na bi enne ko ochina bra enne ko ochina bra sika no ebe yire se wonsa beka na side that Ghana ha said the see ya kwan ya ye maintain ni yie no say private sector na road no na o hand over to the government within short time kwan ne be say within short time e dan ne be say enti sa time na e ka no kra ye ntua wie na kwan na say ye be ka kyen say kwan na say wa anya kwan ne ye enti nobody will be interested say or the sika e be rasa infrastructure nim yen state ni clear Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and with the economic hardship say private sector when sika or they invest in businesses here within short time obenya sika said that we are more because Ghana say economy no it is not suitable for business is egu into answer and time ni sika billions of cedis billions of dollars emfa ma mewura sa infrastructure nim wa bra want me take in 10-20 years business ni begu into nobody will be interested into a hono man in Canada no trasa only say businessmen ni say are they interested Yanko engineers and planners for Honko be say engineers and planners say engineers and planners we are interested say mobile building so I'm runabout I cost you billions of dollars at the amaye say business investors no catch say they are willing to do that and sana kwa babontia beka we e kai me honorable Kennedy Assembly
na yewe na
the right me wie na me ka asem kitwa bi Kennedy ka assembly say we engage business investors from India and different countries nti all can inside na all kire say ono de we din kai engagement amoma accept Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia de engage obi a o kan na no na wo ye no sinche right the last time and say Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia according to him aban we aye bibia possible say nyame ya adoma in fact bibia be to turn akwan enu nti industrial revolution enwuma bie jobs ebebuso na saasem no ena mpesa me hwe no finally right ani nyina no say kasa adwuma enya aban kwa ne bie private sectors ebie adwuma more than aban na yakasa industries ya enu na kita majority of elite countries no industries and it is also ya Ghana nya independence no Dr. Kwame Nkrumah the late nyame fa ne currency o make sure say you be a lot of industries, you be companies bebre, you be factories bebre to make sure say you better generate enough money na enwuma so beba. Na Dr. Bawumia nsema working. Se me check dia me hu bibia in 8 years. New industries omo de buy because omo kan say movie industry. Omo ba egu, omo be mana peja. Sa industry ne agu. Asay kra compare to the previous years no aginsemu.
Na unim se ayi kasaprekun ya da bi e kan ho asem se wo Ashanti region.
Okay, I think okay.
Okay. I can one district one factory no. Say omo bu akonta na ni nyina wo de be shem so omo na bi o.
Na the right there hodom mama mbisa question back. Already na kasaprekun workers. Nti se ne omo de omo akọ join ne kasaprekun no. Say workers ne ye 200 a. Omo be ka say omo employ 200 workers ana. Workers o kasaprekun.
Me cho say eno no ya de a omo ye da bia.
Because
be shem so na ye.
Kasaprekun I existed for so many years. Omo workers dada omo machines nti wo di value e na abeka ho wa add value to omo adwuma no wo de niam ba kuma no bi na abeka ho but wo di beshem say what build a new one district one factory e wo tano so meanwhile that factory no it was already existing factory bi a agu to say timber factory bi e wo the same area fabi Honorable Kennedy kan ho say obantuma say what is omo ton he want to buy eno agu bibi say na say wo to asase no na we build this factory no but when I in existence na ye adwuma na we do ho akotare keke right on build the factory nti sa nyuma no Dr. Bawumia should come again na ye hu say aha asase person na da ho no abeto e na we bi adwuma
when squad nya bi nye o nante ni nya bi nye
because enwuma ni ho
to mi hu ne enko pa adwuma
enwuma ni ho na yes enwuma no be bi e wo no right they should come out do be a me person come specific say yeah, be about 2.1 million jobs no. Region BI say in Ashanti region and in Western region. Yeah, be a human makuma ku 30 employ nipa 2000. A human 30 no. Oko Ahanta Wester. Baako hoko bekwai. Baako hoko asokwa baako ho ne ye hu nyuma no. Then ye nyina ne ye de CV akọ ne akọ apply for adwuma.
Okay.
Na ye nya bia ye.
Enkofo so ebisa sa question we. Omo se Dr. Bawumia aba be kasa finally. But that's what we said. I hope bia a womb between Dr. Bawumia and Kennedy Agyapong. When an NPP among you neighbor.
Well, the writer, a very interesting question. I will be some you. Question is more there. Now, my members viewers and also first. Say, dear Bawumia king, and in some Kennedy Kayano, Kennedy policy, Bawumia policies, or more from Munson, any my share. Or moon way.
When I said Bawumia, there are some comfort bashing.
But I know crowd woman say Bawumia the Kennedy issue no. So be Samia the make say my meaning come straight answer. Na min chirem.
Okay.
Kennedy 1,000 times I'll pick him over Dr. Bawumia. Per Bawumia sama okan yi.
Say, commander.
But any nyina say Bawumia kyerɛ sɛ Kennedy our ideas e chen ono Bawumia. Bawumia kyerɛ sɛ Kennedy enim say ye chichire oman e che ono Dr. Bawumia na wa kire say Kennedy a very intelligent e che ono Dr. Bawumia in terms of politics.
I know kan.
Right okan ye.
Okan san sem no.
Right say okan ye mi kire ma obeti say okan ye.
Do dey kire me.
Right me person mi kire m. Ni nyina ne say Dr. Bawumia as a person.
Okay.
Wa kire mu say ono oba eniema oba ba ye no body no wa hye bobe say 18 plus. Na bo sha wo share ye no. Majority of them keka e been one student one laptop ya kai odinkaka one village one dam. How many villages and what dam e northern part of Ghana oka say each village e benya one dam no. In the upper east region ohine ba akoko ka say Bawumia be park e wo ho no wa me dam obedwa asase no so ato no waja hoko eno na nchen oka say every child of Ghana ha will get access to one hot meal every day. Anya adwuma ne okoka one laptop one student who will believe this na saa de we kra no junior high school for JHS for omupe school prefect and a shasa abowi sa JHS for a school prefect for Boshe right baby Ghana dru no it is about revolution, it is about industries, it is about jobs. Okay. But okoka student say obama no one laptop on fan at the end of the day laptop no the best de o we squad any besi Otifi adwuma ni ho.
Some be say go school no kwa chiri.
Ye be go school na awie unemployment eno an beda so awo ho. Nti Dr. Bawumia is trying to increase the rate of unemployment. Osi obi wie school national service enya mandatory. The writer. O several country enya mandatory. Nti sa adwene na wo de share tri mindset how de share say discipline no the writer away aha na so contradicting no honim de okeka.
Before mistake.
The writer the biggest mistake NPP aye and say omu choose Dr. Bawumia over Kennedy Agyapong. Na me hu say Bawumia so da NPP for one find the policy be anto form no minim say our extra policy be that them say no minim say we no beka ko be en ho beto abama no. I'm telling you for a fact.
Una say skakasa. Scatter from the
writer sikato ato from I'm saying say mpanifo na no mudi na chi bebre no ministers na MPs na no mudi na chi no no minim say policies we na Dr. Bawumia ba beka.
Hey commander
Writer so omo nyina nim say Bawumia beka say omo nje mobile money ho tax na akire ono agina mu bia moma beje no asan ba bantan ba beka say sa tax no obesa atwam a komuni na chibi komuni so mudi na cha omani be gwase keke asamwe okoka kire obi ombe huru and bet me omama other political parties any movement for change for communicators big time opportunity say omfa nya campaign time NPP
Kennedy over Bawumia any day
Kennedy over Bawumia on any day and Bawumia ko wia Kennedy policies kakra na men kan say so wia Kennedy policies Bawumia fa Kennedy policies afa Alan policies and Bawumia sa fa mama policies
yen hwesen kai Kennedy na enya akonya sei so me kasa o ka be hu ni sei
the writer honorable Kennedy Agyapong on NPP platforms internal election po o kire mu say assassin in the northern part of Ghana no ye de yekua ya asase pa uhu say that what say desert land no no pa na edidi anuane mo sa serious no nti kahwiti ya honorable Kennedy ekire say esrem say the bedue na produce amana boroso ne akoton no Dr. Bawumia de wan hu say wheat ni udua esrem yeye na mum Russia Ukraine war nti ni wheat na ema Ukraine fo ne nua ema ne mra ama na bukulong nti wan hu say yedua no esrem yeye but Kennedy approve say yedua no ho yeye ntade na ya nua na ye nkoton bi ma brofo na ye nyi sika hu ye botom ye ton ne ye sika gu ye botom be ma ye botom ayedu buroni ne be sesa ne dollar ndi abaha ba beton nti ebema yesidi ne ho aiden Bawumia as an economist wan hu we
wako di baba gu ni trim
right the wo mu trim ne say ye importo niama from Ukraine nti da bia ye be importo sika say ne di importo ye mfa nko but on timi planning hu say no asase na da ha no etimi ye bibi ye mfa nya bibi foforo na ye nso so mo nso meto ne ye nso nya sika na ye sika ne ho nya dene
no go bi oko nim class ye na Akuffo ado we so no say ohun hiada ekurasi menye sure say wakọ ekurasi to aye bia sa ne ma nti onim
nti obede no hu say eho ye dua serious e ma ne yeyi
e no no obi Akuffo ado say watena brocha to onim say ade no Ghana afọ de Ghana de na edua ne nye papa nti
okay yan crème for Ukraine okay the writer accepted obeka say Ukraine de no enya papa ampa Ukraine for na wo niam a wo betimi de ahyehya amana kama nti yan crème for Ukraine
enso so no na sabi simfo ye dia omo den
ya
what you say eno de kaba ni simfo no mu ni pa dua no mu di
pa eno no mu di den
enso Akuffo ado beka se wo dabi ye de enye nkrabi mra
ya
ana de me che wonti ase
right pepepe na asamba kwa esre ne se obi a kire se meme ba already ma engage private investors why specific private investors from this and that countries meme ba they will come and invest in these sectors. Dr. Bawumia say onu de oba ye be hwehwe private sectors ne say omfa musika meye adwuma omfa musika meye komesi dan private sector be na onya mfaso wo so a odi ne sika be ba be sidan ama wo age se wonya mfaso wo so and okra wonya specific which private sectors one mo nti no Kennedy over Dr. Bawumia 1,000 times.
Hey, Commander.
Yeah, the right no correct.
Commander.
I am very clear.
And they say we Kennedy didn't fancy to mess Bawumia.
The right nti na me dwene asem na ma dwene ho from Bawumia kasere ma dwene ho abesisi sebra me no kasa say. Nti Bawumia sansem o ka kire NPP from penifo e ben na so kan ya. Nti we pa na ye o mo de. Emom decide so on beto ama no ma ja Kennedy.
Now
I don't get it.
Obi to say MP ba ku ya wo yi. Wo hu.
The right am ho emodin.
MP ba ku ya wo yi.
De okotena ase a ontimi answer question bia.
ono onim hwe ntidia Bawumia keke ono no wote wosa na wote o
ehun asa na omo bom nsam wi omo si bibi besi already Bawumia di nkan hyebo about tax wa ni so Bawumia hyebo obechiche niema wanchiche afi osaso obechiche niema bi ma be de na masan je de se obechiche oso be ma me mpaboa wa ma me to aso obe sa atade abreme
bibi atimisi wo hana 2023 Dr. Bawumia renew
right sa pa onkofa policies for from ra na amafo so kan sem bi minim sa watibia
sese
omo se okasa no na Alan Industries no industrial revolution Alan so na di nka kasa ansem no na okasa no Kennedy de no private sectors ye be rap private sectors and no so Kennedy policies na discipline na Kennedy discipline we no cover 24 hours na ade opese o combine ni Alan Kojo Chamatin Kennedy Agyapong any man combine no me policies na akabomana
obi say commenter obi dia about say online passport is just a means to enrich the workers in a passport office. I've put in application for my family for over 8 months now, yet the passports are not out. One has to pay not less than 1,500 just to facilitate printing.
Yeah.
Digitization.
Baby, I dare akuduru no. No correct. Passport on the no correct. The writer. A man for complaining.
Okay.
A man for complaining pa na okra ni nyame anim nie. Me pese viewers no. Nsem bi say na ya me pa omadwen kire no mo. Certain bia omo no kire omadwen mo because ye no omo na ye adwuma. Ebia ne say ye no omo nyina atena ase wa ha ya. E kan say enye right say bekwa akotu agudie e wo hene bi krom hene na nya awe Dr. Mamudwa me odi aka ne policy ho e kan say e wo say ahemfo no tena meetings him say ye discuss about resources say yokutu a e wo say ahemfo no tena negotiations ni mu bi nti Dr. Mamudwa me ade ne policy nti nsama ye ka wa ha no penifo re tie interviewers no omo for my ideas ne mra mo say de be nso betima discuss my ideas ne bebre no yeah
commander no tiem fancy yam ko ne ensamra se ba e sa de dodo na se ba
yeah right ansam ne bebre ho waka nsam bebre
e ba big nso beba bi tu le yam fancy yam fancy ye be san ba abushafo ha brighter media commander na wote ne kan bi din e de brighter nyame adoma e ko ye be san ba sisi e yakra mu nyina